Today, let's talk about 30 signs that you have too much stuff. If you feel overwhelmed when you come into your home, let's say you've been gone and you walk into your space and you immediately feel this overwhelmed feeling, you don't feel restful, you feel a little bit anxious, that could be a sign that you have too much. If you always want to leave, this was my story. I was constantly coming up with excuses to leave my home, even just for the afternoon. And looking back now, I know what that meant. It meant I had too much stuff in my space, losing things. We all lose things. But if you lose things a lot, like every week or more, that is another sign that you just have too much inventory in your home. If in order to find what you need, you have to dig, this is another sign. Any pile at all, piles on your bed, in the closet, on the floor, maybe you're not even sure if you have the thing you are looking for. Maybe your surfaces are cluttered. Mine do not stay perfect all the time, I promise you. Surfaces are a really easy catch-all dump zone. If your surfaces are pretty much covered in knickknacks or who knows what, then that's another sign. If you have to move items in order to complete a task, like you have to move the entire dining room table's contents off the dining room table just in order to sit down and have dinner, or you have to move piles off the couch just so that you can sit down, this is another indicator that it is time to declutter. If you always are finding yourself rebuying things, even though you know it's around here somewhere, but you're constantly having to rebuy. Now, this is one of the fears that a lot of people, including myself, have when it comes to decluttering. I'm gonna get rid of it, need it, and then have to rebuy it later. It does not make sense, and this is what I've learned from experience, to keep every single item that you might need someday. You won't make progress, or you won't make enough progress to really start reaping the full benefits of living a more simplified life. So it's worth the risk. Maybe you feel like you just need a bigger home. If you only had more space, more rooms, a bigger garage, a basement, life wouldn't seem so difficult and you wouldn't have to spend so long cleaning. This was another thing that I was really frustrated by several years back before I began my minimalist journey, is the amount of time that it took me to clean my house was so overwhelming. And it always kind of felt like if I just had a bigger house, it would solve the problem. Actually, when we moved to a couple years ago, we didn't really gain square footage other than just maybe 100 square feet, which is really not much in the grand scheme. And keeping my house under control, although I am not perfect and never will be, is so much easier. And it's not because I moved and got a way bigger house, it's because I got rid of a large volume of my stuff. If things are stuffed to overflowing, my goodness, this used to be me. My husband used to call me a stuffer. I had a chronic stuffing disorder. I always accumulated more. I had kind of a shopping addiction. I would always accumulate more and not declutter. I would just continue to stuff and stuff the corners and spaces of my home until they were spilling over. This was, and I didn't know it at the time, this was one of the signs that I had way too much. And this is another reason I spent so long cleaning, because everything was pushing out into my main living space and making it really hard to keep tidy. And then I didn't have homes for things because all my cupboards and closets were an absolute disorganized, stuffed mess. So if you are stuffing, you have a fellow sister here because I have been a stuffer for most of my life. You don't know where the item goes, or you've kind of given up on your home. This is another sign you've got too much. So I talked about how I had a real shopping problem. I shopped all the time for things that I didn't need. And looking back on it now, I think I was just, well, I know I was overwhelmed with my life. I was overwhelmed with my role as a homemaker. And I got that quick, dopamine hit. If I went out and bought something new, I thought, ooh, I'll decorate, I'll redecorate. I redecorated a lot. If I redecorate my space, I'll like it more, or I'll have an easier time keeping it clean, or it'll refresh my space, not realizing that the problem was having too much, not needing to redecorate or buy more. So I realized that bringing all of this stuff that I didn't need into my house was actually really, really hindering me. So once I got a hold of that habit, things started to get a lot better. So if you're like me and you spent a lot of time or do spend a lot of time shopping for things that you really don't need, that you just want, that's another indicator. You constantly feel like you just need to get organized. I have absolutely nothing against organization. In fact, I've kind of been on a little organizing kick this year, and I've really, really enjoyed the benefits. But I've realized that after decluttering, that's when the real organizing becomes effective and you're able to benefit from it. But if you haven't decluttered your space yet and you just feel like, if I could just get organized, things would run way better for me. Now, before I had really organized this house that I've been in for a couple years, it really wasn't hard to manage. I didn't feel like if I could just get organized, things would be so much easier. Things were already feeling pretty easy. Organizing just kind of took it to the next level of simplification, which I absolutely adore. So if you feel like, oh my gosh, if I could just get organized, then I would have an easier time cleaning, or I wouldn't feel so overwhelmed, then you probably have too much, and organizing isn't going to fix it. Drawers are jammed. I used to have them all the time. Drawers that won't open, and you kind of shake to try and like rattle whatever it is in there to get it open. Oh, this is another one. If you've got drawers that jam, that is a tongue twister, then you just need to reduce the inventory. Also, if you have multiple junk drawers or junk cupboards, then that's another sign. You should only really technically need one area in your home for miscellaneous items, whether this is a little caddy with drawers, an actual drawer in your kitchen, or little baggies that you organize in some way. I think most homes can function really, really well with just one space like that. You have a lot of duplicates. I had, I think, 5 crock pots when I first set about this. I had 5 crock pots, I think 5 pairs of scissors, and just the amount of duplicates, I can't even tell you, was very alarming. And the reason I had so many duplicates is because I'd go out and rebuy what I didn't know I already had. This is how we keep accumulating duplicates. It's because we don't know where it is, we're not sure if we have it, and we go out and buy another one. So if you have lots of duplicates, that's another indicator. You don't have coat hangers available, so you're having to like shove things into already stuffed, maybe even overflowing dresser drawers, or you're putting a lot on the floor. Not having a place to hang your clothes because your closet's full and you have no more hangers left is another sign. I like to just buy about 40 hangers, and that's my limit for my entire closet. So if you're finding that you don't have hangers available, doesn't mean you need more hangers, it means you need less clothes. Going back to cleaning and that overwhelming feeling of constantly being in motion and trying to keep your house clean, but never feeling like you really can get on top of it, feeling like you are literally spinning your wheels. So having rooms or areas that feel impossible to keep clean. No matter your effort, no matter how long you spend, the area is still a mess. This is such a defeating thing, and I don't want you to feel like that in your space. I spent too long feeling that way myself, and I would eventually just give up. I would shut the door and I would walk away, kind of throwing my hands up in the air. I give up. You deserve better than that. So if you feel like there are areas of your home that are so hard to keep clean or impossible to keep clean, this is another sign. Not that you're a bad housekeeper, that you just have too much. You have storage areas in your home, no matter where this is. It could be under your bed, it could be in your closet in your bedroom, but you have storage areas and you don't know what's in there. This is how I used to live my life. So if you can think of an area in your home and you're like, I actually have no clue what's in those bins or what's in those boxes or what's underneath that bed, then you know you've got too much. Are your storage spaces, like your attic, your basement, your garage, are they totally full? Generally, these areas can actually be utilized in a really, really cool way and function for you if you get the stuff out. You keep lots of items just in case. And I think this is an interesting connection to having too much. I think when we have too much in our homes, we're constantly kind of in this heightened anxiety. You might not even realize it, but your anxiety levels actually, this is science, they actually go up, and you have a heightened, stress level if your home is full of clutter. And I think that increases our worry that we're going to need it later. And so we are kind of in like a fight or flight in our own home. You don't have to keep these just in case items. You really, really don't. You feel like everything is sentimental, or you feel like everything is really, really valuable, worth a lot of actual physical money. This is another sign. This is the thing about having too much clutter. It really is a burden. It really puts you in a box, and it really does limit you in your decision making, and it kind of distorts reality just a little bit. Again, speaking from experience. So feeling like everything is sentimental is another sign that you've put too much value on your actual things. Once you start getting rid of stuff, it becomes less valuable. Not everything in your space has a home. I like to think, where would I use this item the most often? Do you have an extra storage unit? I can't remember what the statistics are. How many Americans pay for an off-site storage unit? Almost, I just looked it up, almost 40% of Americans rent an off-site storage unit for their stuff. If you are doing this, you're wasting your money. You probably have just too much stuff, with the exception of moving. We had to move again a couple years ago, and we had to rent an apartment for 6 months and store most of our stuff. Having too much stuff can make decisions really hard to make. So if you find decisions like what to wear, what to clean first, where should I organize, asking yourself these questions often, if you notice that you do, it's because you have too many choices, and it's really, really hard to make quick decisions when you have so many different options. So if you think, what do I clean first? Everything feels like a mess. Where do I even start? Then you probably have too much inventory. Whereas if you reduce the inventory, then you can create a quick, easy, and efficient cleaning routine. You go into your closet and you're like, I have nothing to wear. Chances are your closet is full of things that don't fit you, that aren't your style, that are worn out. So it's causing you this decision fatigue when it comes to the end of the day and finally the kids are in bed and you can sit down. If you have a hard time relaxing or a hard time falling asleep, it could be related to the amount of stuff in your space. If things are piled on the floor, piled high with paperwork, furniture you're not using, it could be any number of things. And if you're in a situation right now where you can't really see your floor because it's so covered in stuff, it is absolutely possible to get out from underneath all of this. Don't you worry. I love Katie Wells. She has a YouTube channel and a podcast. I love both of them, but she talks about how if you can donate just even a few items, and if you notice that you feel lighter, a little bit more freedom after donating those items, that's a sign that you've got too much. Your stuff is actually weighing you down. To go even further than that, Joshua Becker talks about experimenting with living with less. He talks about using the number 29. He's like, it's almost like $1.99. It's not quite $2. You're like, feel like you're getting a deal, and start in your closet. Pack up 29 items of clothing for 29 days. You're just doing an experiment. See if in those 29 days, it is easier to get dressed in the morning. Pack up 29 pieces of home decor. Pack up 29 toys, 29 utensils or things in the kitchen. And you're just doing this for 29 days. So get a box, label it, kitchen, closet, whatever, and pack it away for 29 days. You're experimenting with living with less. If you feel more freedom, if it's easier to clean, if you're not so overwhelmed or not so fatigued, you can go ahead and get rid of these items pretty much guilt-free. I have another video here on the screen to help you get out from underneath the clutter in your home. I will see you over there. Bye.